Seichi is a loser, an ugly and dirty boy who, on another pathetic day at school, is faced with something strange. All the students were surprised by a voice on the speakers, saying it was God speaking. In 10 minutes, the entire school will be transported to a kind of role-playing game world. Now students have stats and skills and must form a group evaluating these skills. Obviously everyone was confused, and for a change Seichi is ridiculed because he is level 1 in all possible skills. The students disappear into the fantasy world, but Seichi is sent to some other place. So this god decides he's going to give him a special ability for being last. The smelly boy was taken to a forest and spent 5 days with absolutely no challenge, and he is terribly hungry. When he spots a mysterious fruit, he knew it was his chance to feed on something. When analyzed with its scan, the system presents it as the fruit of evolution. What looks like a giant nut, but the taste was completely terrible. After feeding, a voice warns that the effects of the fruit will be activated. But absolutely nothing happens, and so the boy goes on looking for food. He peers through the bushes and spots a group of monkeys. He remembers that those creatures stole an insect from him not long ago. But the monkeys are level 120, so he has to wait for the animals to leave to steal the food. As there were a lot of fruits, the boy opens his inventory to keep them, and luckily he still finds high-level recovery potions. We can see that all the students were sent to a central square of a city in the game, unlike Seichi, the most unlucky of them all. He still insists on eating whatever crap he sees, and eats a bizarre mushroom that causes him to become paralyzed. Lucky for him, the fruit of evolution gave him resistance to poison. However, he ended up being found by one of the monkeys who gave him a violent punch. Seichi uses his life potion and manages to get back up. But the level 120 monkey is too fast and beats him up once again. Apparently, the boy's smell was so bad that killed the monkey intoxicated, dropping consumable items and cards of skill and crafting. Also, there was a book on the race of intelligent apes. The boy can read in a totally unknown language, perhaps because of his unique abilities given by the god of the game. Now his transformation has been revealed. With a terrible ache, his body begins to change, and just like that, he wakes up with a new look, much thinner. He is totally terrified and confused. The game informs him that 1,000 skill points have been added to each attribute. However, Seichi is angry, he is still level 1, and his transformation is in phase 1/10. 5 months have passed, and the boy learned new techniques with the smart monkeys. He is already capable of taking on a level 311 Aquawolf. Seichi dodges at supersonic speed from the power thrown by the wolf. With only a single kick, he blows the animal's head off, even though he's still level 1, which leaves him impressed. Several items are dropped and sent to his inventory, but the most interesting is the unlocked magic. He gains a legendary weapon, the dagger of the water spirit sphere. The problem is that his evolution starts again. His bones twitch, and he wakes up with 9 out of 10 evolutions complete. And to make things worse, he's surrounded by several clever monkeys. Directly from the skies, a huge pink gorilla, called Kaiser Kong, falls in full rage, calling Seichi to battle. When looking at the creature's status, he sees that the pink gorilla is level 775. Totally overpowered. The gorilla charges at him with a colossal punch, and the boy still manages to dodge it. But something strange happens. The pink gorilla is impressed, and even enamored by the boy's speed. Seichi finds that too bizarre and throws a kick. But this infuriates Kaiser, who dodges and says that was rude and dangerous. And now it would be his turn. Using his super punch, he throws Seichi several meters through the forest. However, the boy is still alive, and this makes the gorilla even more passionate, who by the way identifies as Saria, saying that he likes strong men. The boy is upset by that talk, and tries to use one of his powers. However, once again the gorilla dodges and comes like a meteor in the boy's direction, crashing to the ground. Both Seichi and Saria are still intact. As the last card in his sleeve, the boy decides to use his water magic along with the dagger of the spirit and summons a whirlwind of water from the heavens, but he misses the target and hits himself. The gorilla throws a massive punch again and again, making Seichi lose a lot of blood. While taking the blows, the boy reflects on how much he has been humiliated by his classmates, and remembers how he managed to defeat the monkey in his first battle. When the gorilla went to deliver the final blow, Seichi used his smell again, releasing the putrid stench of his armpits. But instead of killing the gorilla, he made him even more in love with him. The beast wants to marry the boy, and decides to take him along with it. He is then taken to the pink gorilla's treehouse, and he is incredibly well cared for, which scares him even more. Saria makes a magnificent feast and even sews clothes for her beloved. But the two continue in the fight because Seichi wants to escape from that place at any cost. While the gorilla was catching some fish, the boy tries to escape, but he comes face to face with a giant terrifying spider. but Saria sends the beast into space with just one blow, which leaves Seichi wondering if he should really treat her so badly. After all, she is extremely worried about him. Meanwhile, in the main city, some students are finding the leader's behavior strange. The king ordered everyone to defeat the demon lord that haunts that world, for they were skilled warriors never seen before. However, the head of the royal guard named Zakia does not allow the students to go out in combat, and only keeps them in training. This has them worried, because nothing makes sense. Seichi has finally escaped from the gorilla, but Saria found out and is coming at full speed screaming for Seichi not to go in that direction. But the kid uses his speed skill and shoots ahead. He then arrives at a dungeon that seems very scary, but still advances, and when he finds a huge door with some torches lighting it, he enters without even wondering what it was. Just ahead is seated on a throne, a bizarre skeleton with red eyes, who says that no one has ever entered his room, and if a human has managed to do that, he must have a matching power. Seichi looks at the enemy's status, and that was the level 1500 Dark Lord. The skeleton begins to release a powerful red aura. He calls the boy an insect and wields his sword. In a blink of an eye comes the attack. Seichi screams, already fearing his death, but he realizes all that blood was from the gorilla Saria, who came in front of the attack and had her chest stabbed to save her lover. The boy despairs and says he can give her a healing potion, but Saria says it's no use. A Kaiser Kong can resist with 0 health for a few minutes. She had already died at the time of the attack. There's nothing more to do. Seichi is desolate. The gorilla still says that the boy is kind and wasn't afraid of her, and makes one last request, for him to smile one last time. Seichi went into rage mode. He summoned his legendary weapon and slashed at the Lord, doubly slashing with his bone weapon. But the attacks were being easily blocked. Xenos continues to mock Seichi's love for a gorilla, and the boy says he really loves her. And so he invokes a new spell, Oceanic Impact, shooting 7 jets of water from a magic cell. But still, nothing. The Lord opens black holes that dissipate all power. But Seichi won't give up. He uses his instant movement and goes at supersonic speed with the dagger, right into Xeno's chest. The creature begins to glow and drops its axe. The skeleton thank him for showing what true love means. And so, the true appearance of the creature that will go in search of its beloved in another plane is revealed. Xenos crumbles into particles. The boy still has time to talk his last words with Saria, who is also already falling apart. But when a bright light appeared, something was wrong. Instead of the gorilla, a red-haired girl who claims to be Saria appears, and hugs Seichi, leaving him totally bummed, for obvious reasons. Now it was time to open the chest dropped by the boss, and several new powers have been added to Seichi, including his XP level has increased so much that he will enter his last evolution. Saria is desperate to see the boy squirming, but looking at him in his final stages, she realizes that his appearance has changed once again. Before the two can think of leaving that dungeon, some bugles start to sound and a little sheep in a suit named Mr. Sheep appears in the tower. He claims to run that place, and he's there because the duo was the first to finish that dungeon. And now they will get special items, seeds of the fruit of evolution, and one 10-day travel set. In addition to very exclusive skins, like a helmet that opens if you want to eat something. After that, Mr. Sheep teleports them out of the dungeon, throwing them into an open field, and from now on, Saria and Seichi's new journey begins. They advance a little through the forest scenario and already find a friendly slime enemy, which has an absurd level 88. The blue jelly jumps on top of Seichi, who summons his swords and breaks the poor thing with one blow, leaving a trail of destruction. Even he was frightened by his strength. With more items dropped, Sarah kept the boots to increase defense, and Seichi with the skill cards that made him level up once more, and so his helmet also evolved with a strong light, and turned into a dark cloak. Well, when they arrived in the first big city called Telbert, because they were without their player identities, they had to use the Gem of Truth to enter the gates. Officer Claude confirms they have no criminal history and lets them in. Despite the guards' warnings, Seichi decides to go to the guild's headquarters to get the IDs. The place is a bizarre bar with a somewhat alternative staff. A girl is using her whip and red candles for completely insane activities. It's a place full of depraved people. Seichi tries to convince Sarah to flee from that place, but they are interrupted by Gassel Kroot, a bodybuilder head of the guild, who convinces them in a crazy way to join them. Aris McLean, the whip freak, turns into a sweet loli, and convinces the new members to finally register. She then says that they need to go through an evaluation mission to know what level their missions are, and for that they must be supervised by an adventurer named Arturia, ranked A. However, the white-haired woman doesn't want to babysit newbies, and even though she is furious about it, she ends up accepting the job. On the streets of the royal capital, she tells the duo that they will go through general category missions, the first being to help children from an orphanage, Something very simple, and Sarah decides to stay there alone to complete the step. Artoria leads Seichi to the second challenge, which would be a building demolition mission. And just by pressing his palms against the stone walls, Seichi makes the place collapse and everything collapses on top of him. Artoria is desperate, thinking that she caused that situation. She remembers childhood trauma, always thinking that everyone who approaches her ends up hurt by her. Despite all this concern, Seichi emerged calmly from the rubble, and Artoria was furious with him, saying that he must follow instructions and not act like a fool, as adventurers must develop the ability to sense danger and know that the people around you can get hurt. And now the last challenge has arrived, taking the dog for a walk. The problem is that Milk-chan is a giant wolf who goes on a rage after Seichi. Well, but apparently the 3 tasks were accomplished, and Kroot hands the duo the first bounty. Seichi and Saria set out for another test to see if they are fit to be part of their guild. This time, they need to collect some items and bring them to Artoria. Saria is the first to present the items she has collected and shows that she was successful in her quest to find medicinal herbs, as her supervisor had requested. Then the girl checks the items collected by Seichi, and the boy informs her that he managed to find mana mushrooms, an extremely rare item. However, his mission was to collect medicinal herbs, simple items that could be found anywhere. Still, Seichi reveals that he couldn't find any herbs, and Artoria shows that some of those plants were literally growing beside the boy's feet. After collecting them, he sets out on a new quest, looking for the 5 missing medicinal herbs. The problem is, no matter how hard Seichi tries, he can only find rare items. During the search, the boy spots 3 demons who plan to capture humans with their traps. Seichi approaches and asks if they saw any medicinal herbs nearby, but, to his surprise, those demons decide to eliminate him, afraid that the boy has overheard their plans. One of those weirdos summons a troll and orders the creature to destroy the boy, but Seichi uses his absorb ability to transfer his opponent's strength to him. By doing so, the boy manages to block the giant's attack and destroy the wooden log the troll was using to strike him. When they realize that their giant friend has been defeated, the cowardly demons give up on attacking the boy and flee. Unsuccessful in collecting the medicinal herbs, Seichi returns carrying several rare items he found along the way. Artoria, feeling sorry for the boy, decides to give him some herbs she had found. Then the trio set off for the next test, which would decide if they really could be part of that guild. To pass, each of them would have to defeat 10 slimes. The battle begins and Seichi takes his first sword swing. However, before receiving the attack, the monster disappears, and, when investigating the reason why it happened, Artoria discovers that someone has spread teleportation spells all over that place. The girl interrupts the test and asks the couple to leave, but shortly afterward, Artoria is also teleported away. Seeing that her friend is in danger, Seichi and Saria go after her and also end up being taken to another world. As they didn't know that place, they decide to separate to find the way out. Artoria gives Seichi a guide stone, which would show her location. If the stone turned red, that would be a sign that the girl was in danger. As she prepared to head in the opposite direction, she steps into a trap and a part of the ground begins to rise, forming a wall separating Artoria from her companions. The young woman uses her axe to try to knock down the wall, but fails to cause a single scratch. So, she decides to look for another way to get to them. Saria has the idea of using the guide stone to find her friend, but it doesn't work out. The stone only points towards the wall. Apparently, the only way to find Artoria is to destroy that wall. Seichi throws a few punches, but the most he can do is bruise his fists. So, Saria suggests they go another way to try to find their friend. Meanwhile, Artoria was getting a good beating from a zombie mummy who guarded the halls of that castle. However, with the help of her axe, the girl manages to defeat that monster. Even injured, she continues looking for a way to find Seichi and Saria. While searching for the girl, the couple find a very suspicious chest. From inside, they heard a voice ordering them to open the box. Suddenly, a pair of arms and legs emerge from the chest and try to attack them. However, Seichi uses his restraining spell against that thing and manages to defeat it. The lid of the chest opens, and inside, they find the 2 legend-level gear in the Ring of Misfortune, which multiplies the wearer's luck by -2. At this point, Saria notices that the guide stone given by Artoria has turned red, which means the girl is in danger. Desperate to discover that his friend's life is at risk, Seichi begins to punch the wall that separates them again. As she walks through the halls of the castle, the girl enters the room of the Black Dragon God, who is determined to devour her. Artoria uses her axe to try to defend herself, but the Dragon God is infinitely stronger than her. However, the girl will not allow herself to be eliminated until she sees her friends safely at home. Therefore, to defeat that monster, she decides to use her secret weapon, the power that gave her the name Calamity. Artoria transforms into a red creature and starts to attack, but in a single blow the dragon manages to throw her away. Still, the girl doesn't give up and goes for him again. However, she ends up having her legs seriously injured. In a final blow, Artoria has her stomach pierced and her only option is to accept defeat. As she was about to be eliminated by the dragon's flames, Seichi and Saria appear and the boy uses his cloak to block the fire. As Saria uses a healing potion to treat Artoria's wounds, Seichi draws his swords to face that monster. The boy uses his ultrasonic speed to dodge the dragon's attacks and heads towards it. But he ends up being hit by a fireball and is thrown to the other side. When using his advanced assessment skill, he finds that the Black Dragon God is at level 5000, the highest he has ever faced. The monster uses its tail to hurl Seichi against the wall. This blow is enough to seriously injure him. To try to destroy the boy once and for all, the creature unleashes its most powerful spell, the Infernal Inferno, which consists of a giant fireball. Seichi didn't know how to get rid of that attack, so Saria reminds him of the spell the boy used while fighting her. In doing so, tons of water fall on top of the dragon and flow in all directions. Still, the demon does not give up the fight and prepares for another attack. While fighting back, Seichi acquires several new abilities, which he uses to cut the monster to pieces. After eliminating him, his level increases and new items are unlocked. Among them, the Black Dragon God's Claw, Scale, Fang, and Bone. Also, by eating the Dragon God Gem, his physical abilities and the potency of all his spells increase. Now with new powers, Seichi opens a portal and the trio are able to safely return to their starting map. When she wakes up, Artoria asks her friends for forgiveness for involving them in her misfortune and reveals that since she was born, she has carried a curse that makes her have bad luck. For her, the worst of it all is that the people around her are also affected by her calamity. When she arrives at her guild, her companions reveal that they were worried about Artoria's disappearance and would soon set out to look for her. Hearing this, Seichi says that despite her curse, he, Saria, and all of the girl's friends loved her. Embarrassed, Artoria runs away and Saria asks Seichi to go after her. When she finds the girl, he hugs her and promises that he will be by her side when she feels insecure. In that instant, the boy remembers that he found the Ring of Misfortune while he and Saria were exploring the castle. This ring is capable of multiplying its wearer's luck by -2, so, as Artoria's luck is negative, when wearing it, she would have positive luck. So Seichi puts the Ring of Misfortune on her finger which, when it meets with Artoria's bad luck, has the opposite effect and becomes the Ring of Happiness. This, without a doubt, is the best gift Artoria could receive. Embarrassed, she runs away again as she realizes she is starting to fall in love with Seichi. The next morning, while having breakfast with Saria, Seichi says that Artoria is avoiding him. Saria says that doesn't mean the girl hates him, maybe she just needs some alone time. Later, the couple separates. While Saria goes to visit the orphanage, Seichi decides to brave that new world to gather some important information. He meets with his other guild mates and asks if there have been any major events in nearby cities lately. Gussel, the green-haired bodybuilder, responds that he has heard that some other country has conducted an invocation of great heroes. Ellis completes by saying that these heroes were brought from another world to defeat the resurrected demon lord. The girl says that if Seichi wants to know more about this story, he should go to the royal library and Gussel gives him a map so he can get there. At the library, Seichi realizes that the information provided in the books was incomplete. Also, all records refer to humanity as being righteous and the demon lord as being evil. However, demons suffered cruel fates at the hands of humans. Faced with this controversy, Seichi no longer knows what to believe. He decides to take a break from his research on the war between humans and demons, and decides to start studying magic. A few hours later, the boy goes out to lunch. On the way, he meets a girl with animal ears exhibiting some of her paintings. Seichi then decides to buy one of those paintings. After sending the object to his item box, he is attracted by the delicious smell coming from a restaurant. Upon entering, the boy notices that the place is pretty empty, however, the food looks amazing. While eating his plate of noodles, a man named Ranza, who is sitting next to him, asks if the boy is new in town, as he has never seen him there. After introducing himself, the man tells that mustachioed guy is called Noid and owns that restaurant. Meanwhile, Artoria walks, confused, through the city streets. The girl doesn't know what to do with the feelings she had for Seichi. At that moment, Adriana appears and invites the girl for tea. As they talk, Artoria tells her what's been bothering her and Adriana claims that all of this is happening because she's in love. The woman still says that ring Seichi had given Artoria was a vow of eternal love, but the girl knows that Seichi loves Saria and is in love with her. She then asks Adriana to help her get the boy's attention, as Artoria wanted him to love her too. Adriana then promises that she will teach her the perfect way to win Seichi's heart. At the restaurant, the boy tells his acquaintances about the ring he gave to a friend. Then Noid reveals that, in that country, when a man presents a woman with a ring and places it on her left ring finger, it is a symbol of his vow of eternal love. Seichi is startled and reveals that his heart belongs to someone else. At that time, Ranza intrudes on the conversation and advises the boy to cultivate an eternal love for the two. Noid advises the boy to make his intentions clear. Either he marries the girl he gave the ring to, or he should sincerely apologize for the misunderstanding. Hearing this, the boy thanks him and leaves. He goes to the orphanage to pick up Saria. Soon after, Artoria appears and Seichi ponders if this is the best time to clear up the misunderstanding. But suddenly, the girl approaches and kisses the boy. She says that she knows very well that Seichi didn't give her the ring because he was in love with her, but even so, Artoria ended up falling in love with him and wants to stay by his side. As they hug, Saria opens the door and Seichi enters in despair. He says that what was happening was not what she thought, but to his surprise, Saria asks him to accept Artoria as well. Although it's a little sad that she can't have Seichi all to herself, the girl says that she also loves Artoria and wants to have her around. With Saria's approval, Seichi says he will love Artoria too and kisses the girl. A few days later, the three get married and seal their union in front of their friends. Now they must prepare to face the challenges ahead together. Seichi and Saria were enjoying their lunch when Gassel approaches the couple and recommends that the young man get a horse, for only then could he consider himself a high-level adventurer. Then the man reaches into his underwear and pulls out a map. Then he hands the paper to Seichi. There was the address of the place where he could buy his new companion. When he meets with the farmer, the man informs the young man about the Royal Cup, a race that would take place around the walls, in which humans would be mounted on horse-like creatures. The farmer tries to get Seichi to buy one of those monsters to participate in the competition, but he says he is looking for an ordinary horse. So the man introduces Lulun, his wild mare, whom no one has ever been able to tame. As soon as he enters the stable, the master is greeted with a kick. Seichi is then given the ability to understand all languages and is able to understand what the mare is saying. Lulun states that the only ones who can touch her are those she considers worthy. The animal tries to attack Seichi, but the young man easily dodges all of its blows. When he was about to receive the death kick, he grabs the animal's legs and blocks the attack. Seeing that she could not beat him, the mare surrenders and claims that Seichi is the only man worthy of being her master. When the old man wakes up, the young man informs him that he wishes to buy the mare and, for the first time, Lulun is free from that place. She smells Nikuman and her mouth waters. After tasting one of those delicious cakes, Lulun tries several other foods that she had never imagined could exist. The mare is so grateful that Seichi got her out of that place that she promises she will spend her whole life repaying him. On his way home, the young man sees two young people arguing. Among them was Mei, the girl with animal ears that Seichi had bought a painting of a few days before. Clay, her colleague, was trying to convince her to participate in the Sharasti painting contest because he did not want the girl's talent to go to waste. But Mei didn't think her work was good enough to take part in that contest. In her mind, she was just a beginner. Seichi then states that he will participate in the Royal Cup, and proposes to Mei that if he manages to place first in the competition, she would also participate in the painting contest. The girl accepts the deal, and Clay informs her that the 5th place winner would win Tambuli, a giant legendary fish with incomparable flavor. Upon hearing this, Lulun gets excited and is determined to take 5th place in that competition. Finally, the day of the race arrives. Saria and Artoria wish Seichi good luck and say that they will be rooting for them on the front row. Lorna, one of the members of the Valkyries group, informs us that the 1st place winner will win a ticket to spend the day at Arkshell Castle with the Valkyries. The competition begins and Lulun and Seichi are left behind. The mare can barely walk and says that that morning, due to anxiety about the race, she was unable to eat. The young man then searches in his bag for some food that he can give to the animal. At this time, he finds a kit for growing the fruit of evolution. After eating the fruit, Lulun recovers his energy. Meanwhile, the rest of the competitors were already reaching the final stage of the race. In order to ensure her victory, one of the competitors summons her wolves to eliminate her opponents. Due to the imminent danger of death, the tournament was about to be cancelled. But before Lorna could make the final announcement, Lulun appears running at full speed. She jumps over the other competitors, and when she returns to the ground, the impact is so great that the wolves are sent flying away. Many of them even end up being killed. However, the infernal wolf, a gigantic, brutal-looking creature, is still standing and starts to attack the mare. Lulun doesn't back down and also rushes towards the gruesome monster. She lands a powerful kick to the wolf's nose and manages to knock it out. Now the duo has an advantage in the race and manages to come in first place. Everyone is very happy, except Lulun, who really wanted to win the Tambuli, destined for the 5th place. Seichi tries to console her and thanks her for her efforts. In that instant, the mare begins to transform. Saria and Artoria show up at the stable and realize that Lulun is no longer an animal. Instead, she is transformed into a beautiful woman. Artoria, jealous, punches Seichi in the face. The young man explains that Lulun transformed after eating the fruit of evolution, but Artoria doesn't believe this story. However, Saria claims that Seichi is telling the truth because the same thing happened to her. The girl was an ape before she became human. Then Artoria arranges some clothes for Lulun. Just then, Lorna and Claudia appear. After handcuffing Seichi, they inform them that the young man needs to accompany them. They take him to Arkshell's castle and the young man asks what he did to be dragged there. Claudia reports that Seichi was being taken to the castle to receive the first place prize in the Royal Cup. After removing the young man's handcuffs, they take him to the training camp, where Louise, the leader of the Valkyries, was training with other members of the team. All the women attack Louise at once, yet the blue-haired girl manages to defeat them easily. Her movements are so fast that even with his 6th sense ability, Seichi cannot keep up. After training, the girl challenges him to a mock battle. Louise makes the first attack, and is surprised to see that Seichi was able to dodge it so easily. She promises that she will use all her power from then on, but despite this, the young man is not hit by any of her blows. Then the girl decides to use her most powerful attack. At this moment, Seichi's various abilities merge, allowing him to rip the sword out of his opponent's hands. Upon seeing that their leader has been defeated, the Valkyries go into shock, for no one has ever been able to beat Louise in a sword fight. After admitting defeat, the girl kneels down and asks Seichi to be her master. She states that she wishes to learn from him. Meanwhile, in the king's bedroom, an invasion takes place. The man was getting ready to take a bath when he is attacked. Claudia calls Seichi to have tea with her. As they chat, the woman thanks the young man for helping Louise. She tells that her leader has been a prodigy with the sword since she was a child. However, she is not able to use any kind of magic. Her ability consists in recreating any sword technique of her opponent. Because of this great talent, the girl has always been very solitary. During the conversation, Louise appears and thanks Seichi for saving her. She tells how she has wielded the sword since she was a child, and the stronger she became, the more people turned away from her. Now the young girl had someone as strong as herself to call a friend. Coincidentally, Seichi understands this feeling very well. After all, he was also very lonely in his school. So, the young man decides to help her with her training. At this time, the trio is surprised by an official who informs them that the king has been attacked. Louise summons the Valkyries to hunt down the invader and asks Seichi to leave. However, the young man decides to stay to help them. He uses his world vision ability to scour the castle for a possible suspect. A few seconds later, he finds the criminal, who was trying to escape. The curious thing is that the culprit was only an 8-year-old girl named Oliga Calmeria. When she arrives at the training arena, she is surprised by Seichi and throws 2 knives in his direction. However, the young man manages to block the attack. He states that he will keep the weapons, as they are dangerous for children. However, his reflexive defense skill is involuntarily activated and the young man throws the knives toward the girl. Luckily, Oliga was not injured. Instead, the knives just stuck her cloak to the wall, immobilizing the girl. Still, she does not give up. After breaking free, the girl tries to attack Seichi again. To prevent one of the two from getting hurt in that battle, the young man strikes the back of the girl's head, causing her to faint. Seconds later, the Valkyries appear and he reveals that it was that girl who attacked the king. Everyone wonders why a child would do that and Louise asks Lorna to question her. Seichi questions if the king is okay and Louise reveals that he is not waking up. The weapon Oliga used to cut him down was a knife cursed with eternal sleep. Once someone is wounded with this weapon, the person is never able to wake up again. No one in the entire kingdom had found a way to break that curse, so Seichi asks the Valkyries to take him to the king. When he arrives in his room, the young man is surprised to discover that Ranza, the man he met in a restaurant a few weeks ago, is the king of that country. Looking at the man's arm, he can see the mark of the curse. Just then, Florio, Louise's brother, enters the room. The young man is the leader of the magic division of that nation, and although his magic has been effective in healing the king's wounds, he is unable to rid him of the curse. Florio asks Seichi to help them, and the young man promises that he will try to fix the situation. Seichi then tries to create a magic that can reverse curses. At this time, his ability to create magic is activated. In his mind, all he could think of was the word, improved. So the improved reverse magic was created. causing the curse of eternal sleep cast upon the king to be reversed in the eternal health charm. When the king wakes up, everyone is extremely happy and Ranza thanks him immensely. As a reward for saving his life, the king asks the young man what he would like to receive in return. At the Barbador Academy, the other students, Seichi's classmates, try to find out why they have been sent there. Karen, the student council president, talks to her friends about her theories about that exile. At this time, Uyama, Tugu and Masaya show up and question what they were talking about. The girl tries to duck out and asks them to leave, but changes her mind when she realizes that Kenji and Shota could get into a fight with those guys and get into trouble. Karen then says that they were talking about why they, the heroes, had been ostracized in that academy. Then Masaya says that the reason is very obvious. According to the young man, they were sent there because they are able to quickly master the magic taught at that academy, compared to the commoners. Karen does not believe this story and, together with her friends, decides to leave. Meanwhile, Seichi enjoys a hot bath in the castle bathtub together with the king. Ranzo tells about his dream to build public baths all over the world because when you are in the bath together with other people, everyone becomes an equal. No matter what race, nationality, whether human or demon, everyone is equal. With this, his goal was that one day the world will stop warring. The king himself admits that this is a foolish dream, but he still intends to make it come true. On the other side of the palace, the Valkyries also enjoy a hot bath while talking about the child who attacked the king. Lorna tells them that she has tried to question her, but the girl won't say anything at all. They also comment on the request Seichi made to the king. The young man said he didn't need any great reward for saving his life. The only thing he wanted was to be allowed to train his fencing and magic with the Valkyries. In the neighboring kingdom, a soldier named Zakia questions the king for sending the heroes to the Barbador Magic Academy. The man states that it was too early for them to be sent there. However, the king says that they are disposable parts, so he didn't care what would happen to those young men. Zakia then asks what he plans to do if the heroes use their power against that kingdom. So Helios, the greatest wizard of that empire, tells us that he placed bondage bracelets on each of those teenagers. Should any of them try to remove their bracelet, they would be eliminated immediately. Just then, an arrow goes through the window, but Zakia manages to block it with his sword. The man believes that some enemy is trying to attack the king and goes there to try to capture him. At this point, Helio tells his king that he has heard rumors that Ranza is forming an alliance with the demons. However, the king asks Helio to rest assured that he has sent a dark executioner to eliminate Ranzo. Back in the Wimberg kingdom, Seichi is surprised by the arrival of Saria, Artoria and Lulun. Artoria insisted on going to the castle, because she was jealous of the young man for being surrounded by beautiful Valkyries. Just then, Louise appears, and the girl becomes enraged. However, Seichi explains that the woman is the leader of the Valkyries. Saria then introduces herself as Seichi's wife, and Florio congratulates him on having found such a lovely partner. Next, Artoria says she is the young man's girlfriend and everyone is shocked to hear this. Finally, Lulun claims to be Seichi's loyal servant, leaving the young man completely embarrassed. In the interrogation room, Lorna keeps trying to get information out of Oliga. Only after this, Seichi will end up discovering the tragic past that this little girl carries. Oliga's future may be threatened. Will Seichi be able to save her from her dark past? At Arkshell Castle, Lorna continues her interrogation. To obtain information about Origa, the girl who invaded the palace and tried to plunge the king into a terrible curse, the Valkyrie uses the most perverse tortures. Since nothing has been enough to get information out of the girl so far, Lorna decides to use her most brutal secret weapon. Origa had been stuck for a few hours without eating, so Lorna puts a delicious plate of katsudon right in front of her. She feeds herself while the girl just smells the overpowering smell of that food. Louise, Claudia and Seichi watch everything through a window and, seeing this perversity, the young man knocks down the door and orders Lorna to stop torturing the girl like that. Louise then removes the gag and blindfold from Origa's eyes and offers her a plate of katsudon. Seichi states that she can eat as much as she wants, and after the meal, the leader of the Valkyries repairs the necklace that the girl is wearing. She recognizes that magic item and reveals that it is known as the Necklace of Slavery. Its wearers are obliged to obey any order from whoever placed it. That is why Origa attacked the king. The girl was sent by the Kaiser Empire to eliminate Ranza. If she disobeyed his order or tried to remove the necklace, she would be electrocuted to death. In the Kaiser Empire, the king discovers that Origa has failed with her mission and Helio states that even though the girl was unsuccessful in eliminating Ranza, she would protect the secret of his empire. To do so, the wizard would order the girl to take her own life. Outside the castle, Zakia, the leader of the royal army, wonders why he wields his sword in favor of that empire. He remembers the moment he met the man who tried to eliminate the king. The traitor introduces himself as Sheen and claims that, in fact, he was the one who shot the arrow through the castle window. The man reveals that he has done this because, through the fault of their king, that nation is plunged into chaos. In addition, he intends to avenge his wife, who was of the demon race and, although she did nothing wrong, was crushed like an insect. The woman was a florist and was working in her store when suddenly 2 guards approached and one of them slashed her with his sword. All this thanks to the king's official announcement, which allowed anyone to exterminate the demons in his kingdom without suffering any punishment. From afar, Sheen watched his wife being killed. When the soldiers left, he tried to help her, but it was too late. At that moment, he decided that he would never forgive the king and anyone who decides to serve him. Zacchaeus states that no matter why that man wants to eliminate the king, his duty is to protect him. After saying this, the knight opens a portal through which comes out Phthia, his magic sword. Sheen launches his arrows towards the enemy, but Zacchaeus easily manages to block the attack. However, he is surprised by an arrow that arrives soon afterwards and pierces his leg. Sheen launches his most powerful attack on him, the prison of 1,000 arrows. However, Zacchaeus ends them all in a single blow, the air-dominant impact. Upon witnessing the true power of the leader of the royal army, Sheen recognizes that he is not yet strong enough to defeat him and decides to leave. Before running away, the man says that the next time they meet, he hopes that Zacchaeus will no longer be a puppet of the king. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Wimberg, Seichi tries to find a way to neutralize the effect of the slavery necklace and free Auriga. He uses his ability to create magic to develop the spell of freedom and destroy the necklace. From now on, the girl is free. Upon hearing this, Auriga becomes emotional and begins to cry. Cesaria runs to hug her and asks Seichi if the girl can stay with them. Louise says that from the beginning she intended to leave the girl in the young man's hands, because Ranza did not plan to punish her for her actions. At this point, Auriga feels safe to share her story. She tells how, in the Kaiser Empire, her lineage, the Beastmen, was persecuted for many years. All but the children were sent to forced labor camps, including their mother. In the following years, the children of the Beastmen received special training, and those who survived became excellent killers. After that, they were forced to become part of the exterminator squad commanded by the royal family. Since the day her collar was put on, the little girl had killed countless victims. Therefore, her hands were deeply stained with blood. However, Seichi says that Auriga will now have a chance to start over and states that the Kaiser Empire was to blame for all that, not her. He says that humans and Beastman should be treated equally and have the same right to live in freedom. The young man says that he can see Auriga as his younger sister, and from then on the little girl calls him her brother. Later, Florio helps Seichi train his magic, because, although he is very strong, the young man is not yet in full control of his powers. Even though Seichi cannot control them very well, Florio says that the young man has made excellent progress since he started training. Just then, Louise appears and reveals that she needs to ask Seichi for a favor. The woman tells him that the Black Paladin has sent a report reporting unusual monster activity along the borders of that country. The big problem is that the Black Paladin's army is not enough to defeat the possible invaders, so she will take the Valkyries there to help him. But before she goes, Louise asks Seichi to protect the king while she is away. The young man accepts the mission and promises that he will protect that kingdom. A week has passed since the Valkyries left the castle and Seichi is already able to control his magic. Suddenly, Gassel and Aris arrive at the palace accompanied by a big-nosed old man. Florio soon recognizes him and is thrilled to meet the great magician Barnabas up close. The old man asks the young man to call him only Barna, and Seichi asks who that guy is. Florio is incredulous to realize that the young man had never heard of the great sage who mastered all types of magic. When the wizard meets with Ranza, he reveals that the Barbador Academy of Magic, in which he is the principal, where the great heroes of the Kaiser Empire were enrolled, was about to collapse. The magician tells that since the heroes from the other world arrived there, various problems have begun to occur. Upon hearing this, Seichi already suspects that the old man is referring to his former classmates. Suddenly, a soldier enters the room and reveals that a huge horde of monsters have appeared in the nearby forest and are approaching the city. The man also says that there were about 5,000 creatures and all of them belong to the level of dungeon bosses. This meant that they would have to deal with an S-rank army. Meanwhile, the Valkyries, along with the Black Paladin's army, unite to protect the border. In fact, this was nothing more than a grand strategy of the Kaiser Empire. They forced the greatest warriors of the Wimberg Kingdom to be stranded on the border while a horde of monsters is sent to Telbert at a time when the city is defenseless. However, what they didn't count on was that Seichi and his friends were there to defeat those creatures and protect the kingdom. Even Auriga was willing to risk her life for that country, where she could live free with her new friends. Before the battle begins, other warriors appear to fight on behalf of his kingdom. Aris and Gasol were two of them. The green-haired man is the first to descend into the battlefield and is followed by the rest of the team. Seichi and Barna stay behind and watch everything from the top of the tower. The young man is surprised to see the powers of Aris who, with the aid of her whip, is able to cut a giant monster into small pieces. Gasol then uses the power of his muscles to defeat his enemies with a single punch. Claude, the leader of the Imperial Army of Wimberg, also enters the battle and uses his sword to eliminate those monsters. Noid, the owner of the bar where Seichi first met Ranza, also reveals his skills in battle and uses his axe to eliminate the Beast King. Now it is the turn of Saria who, exceeding all expectations, has her arms transformed and defeats her enemies with her gorilla punch. Artoria uses her ice prison magic to freeze a giant dinosaur and then destroys it with her weapon. Upon witnessing the girl's power, the magician is surprised, for that is a high-level ice spell. Even though she has no special powers, Lulun also contributes to the battle and uses her super kick to annihilate the giants. Meanwhile, Origa, due to her size, is able to pass unnoticed among the monsters and eliminate them without a trace. Barna decides to help the warriors by triggering the Tornado of Chaos. Seichi is impressed to realize that the wizard, even using all that power, manages to control it so that his allies are not affected. Just when the war seemed to have been won, an emergency report is sent out informing that a new horde of monsters has emerged from deep in the forest, and this time they all belong to the boss category. Now, the small group of heroes is no match for those new monsters. So Seichi tries to think of a wide-range spell to defeat the enemies. The problem is that by using this kind of magic, he would not be able to have full control and ensure that his companions would not be hit. With this in mind, the young man begins to create a new spell whose attack comes from above and has a wide range. Seichi imagines something like the Judgment of the Gods, in which only the wicked would be punished. In this way, only the invaders were hit and their allies were spared. At this moment, the people of Wimberg can finally celebrate their victory. After the battle, Seichi rises in level, and due to the large number of skills he acquired, they were combined together to form skills never seen before. Saria and the other girls arrive shortly afterwards, and Barna invites the young man to become a teacher at his academy, because he has proven to be very powerful. The magician notes that the spell used by the young man to destroy his enemies was 100% authorial, which transcends even his abilities. Barna is only able to replicate spells that already exist, so he asks the young man to teach him how to use the power of magic creation. Seichi says he can't give him an answer at that moment, because he promised Louise that he would take care of the kingdom until she returns to the castle. Besides, he could not leave Saria and his other companions behind. So the magician proposes that they all go with him to the academy. Saria would become a student, Artoria would be a teacher, just like him, Lulun would be a martial arts trainer, and Origa would become his assistant. Everyone agrees with the idea, and together they decide to accompany the old man to the Barbador Academy as soon as the Valkyries return to town. Since there were still a few days until they would leave Telbert, Seichi, in consensus with the girls, decides to take each of them individually out on a date with him. First, he takes Lulun to lunch at a restaurant. The next day it is Artoria's turn. Together they watch plays and go to the movies. Finally, the day of Seichi and Saria's date arrives. The young man is excited to go out with his wife, and while he is getting ready in his room, he is surprised by her. Saria asks if the young man would mind taking Origa with them on the date, as the girl always stayed at home. Seichi agrees to the idea and the three of them go to the park together. While Origa is playing with her friends, the young man thanks Saria for falling in love with him and says that he loves her too. Just as they were about to kiss, Origa appears and calls Seichi to come play ball with them. While they were having fun, a balloon flies over and announces the Shirasti painting contest, in which Mei was participating. Seichi and Saria decide to go there to see the final result. Clay is the first to present his work and leaves the spectators a little confused by his art. Saria says that the painting looks like a beautiful giant sun. Lulun believes that the painting depicts a delicious apple, but Clay says that that painting was done as a way to externalize his passion for art. Now it is Mei's turn to present her painting. In her work, she represents the figure of the man who gave her the courage to enter that competition. The girl gives the painting the title, The Hero, and says that thanks to him, she learned the importance of facing challenges. Seichi is embarrassed to realize that it was he who was being depicted in Mei's painting, but at the same time he feels honored by the painting. At the end of the contest, Mei's work takes first place and Seichi goes to congratulate her. The girl thanks him for encouraging her to participate in that contest and reveals that she has been invited by one of the judges to go to Emeria, the city of the arts, to improve her skills. Seichi congratulates her again and they say goodbye. Soon after, Louise returns to town with the Valkyries and informs Seichi that she has learned about his trip to the Barnabas Academy. The young man asks the Valkyries to visit him at the academy, and then he and his companions say goodbye to the friends they made during their time there. Seichi feels very grateful for having met all those people. Telbert was the first city he visited when he had no idea how the world worked, so he will cherish the memories of his days there. Now they are off on a new adventure, and Seichi can't wait to meet his old classmates.